I feel like there really aren't enough Warhammer book, like, get ready with me reviews, so I'm just gonna do one. I just read The Infinite and Divine for the first time, and it was incredible. I got bullied into reading it by my boyfriend and his friend, who were like, this is the best Warhammer book ever. And I'm like a orc book, Caphias Kane girly, and I was like, I don't know if I'll like it. It's about necrons, and like, necrons aren't really the army that I'm super interested in. So I was like, I don't know if I'll like it. But let me just tell you, the bromance in that book was so cute. Like, it was really frustrating because it's like, not really an enemies to lovers, but it's kind of like, I guess it's enemies to best friends, but I'm gonna say enemies to bromance, because I feel like even when they're fighting, it's not really like fighting, it's more of just beefing because they're ancient and they like don't have anything better to do. So anyway, so it's Trazyn and Orkin, and they're both immortal. And Trazyn loves collecting things, and Orkin is a diviner. He's able to see the futures of things, and people look to him for prophecies, and also he can, as we learn, kind of change the future. So he also kind of brings things into existence. But Orkin is always messing with Trazyn, and Trazyn is always hating on Orkin because Orkin like steals his stuff. But essentially, Trazyn has this thing, and it's like a puzzle box, where that's what he originally thinks it is, but Orkin thinks it's important enough to steal. And so Orkin comes in and he's like, I'm just gonna take this because I can break past all of his security into this huge museum world that he has. So he takes this puzzle box, which sets off a chain reaction, which almost destroys the galaxy. We love that. It's like the same in every Warhammer book. There's always something that's almost planet or galaxy ending. And in this case, the puzzle box is supposedly a very important necron relic that might lead to the tomb of one of the ancient kings. I forget what they're called, but it's from before the time that necrons had a robotic body, and so it's like a relic of their old selves. And both Orkin and Trazyn don't really like that they became robotic. They both want to still, well, Orkin kind of wants to become like an energy being, like transcend his robotic body, both his human ancestry and his robotic form. And then Trazyn is kind of pissed because he doesn't have a soul, and he feels like he's missing something by not being in his original body. And they both say that they really didn't want to become robots. They both wanted to stay in their original body. And so a lot of it is kind of them wrestling with the fact that they both became these kind of perpetual robot beings and not like either a truly divine being like a god, which Orkin kind of wants to become, which he gets a rude awakening about, by the way. No spoilers. But then Trazyn is just really upset in general, but he kind of likes that he has all this time to collect things for a future generation of necrons when they wake up, or any higher civilization that might be able to recognize the genius of what he's doing and kind of maybe even like learn from it, because he's kind of preserving both the good and the bad of the societies that have come before. And it's really cool to see the history of Warhammer through his eyes, because he's lived like an unimaginably long amount of time. So he knows a fuck ton about all of the races that have come before, and even has experienced some of them, which the modern civilizations can't even imagine. And one of my favorite things is that he's able to collect anything. So not just like relics, not just, I don't know, like the bones of creatures, but he's actually able to preserve the real creatures in a kind of stasis for like later, so that he can actually interact with them. He full-on saved armies of like space marines. He saved some, I'm totally forgetting the word, they're the ones that ride the dinosaurs. Anyway, but he saves a whole bunch of really cool old races, which comes in handy for the future. But the whole book is really just the rivalry between Orkin and Trazen, because Orkin doesn't understand any of the research or the purpose behind the research that Trazen's doing, because he's just kind of like, why do you want all this weird stuff? You're a klepto. And Trazen's like, no, this is like really important for history, it's gonna come in handy later. And you know, I think it does, but I think the moral of the story is like, don't let petty beef get in the way of achieving greatness. So I don't know, I thought it was a really good book. I'd highly recommend it to people who are, I'd say, a little bit deeper into Warhammer, not just like completely new to Warhammer. I'd say start with like Kafai's Kane or something if you want to get into Warhammer. But The Infinite and the Divine was all told a really amazing book, so I would highly recommend it. So let me know if you've read it and what you think about it, if you're a Necron player or if you're just an average Warhammer enjoyer. I'm glad I read it. These are the notes that I wrote about The Infinite and the Divine. It starts with the beginning of a nameless world, which is super cool, and it references back to that throughout the book. The Trazen is an immortal collector of cultural artifacts. It has the first instances of Warhammer magic. Really, it's just they're so advanced that it is like magic, but it feels like magic as an outside observer. The inner workings of the necrons is really interesting. The fact that they mention tooth termite squigs is so fun. I love all the different types of squigs for everything in the orc universe. Itching Palms was the same thing as what happened in Kafai's Kane. Super cool massive battle with orc, necrons, and humans. There's a creepy orc Dr. Warboss with a super cool description of like the strange medical amalgamations that he's making. I've really only seen this for like technology, so it was really weird to see it as like a medical thing. Enemies to lovers over immortal lifespans. There's a lot of like global warming subtext, which I thought was pretty funny. Warhammer's like so progressive, and I feel like not enough people recognize that. Some parts of the book almost made me cry, which was really awesome. And yeah, the moral is don't let petty rivalries destroy the universe. The Twice Dead King is another Warhammer book, and I know that a lot of people that are following me are not super Warhammer fans, but I just thought I'd do a little review. This is gonna be kind of a joking review because I really did like the book, but in general it is a Warhammer book that is based on the Necrons, the army. If you haven't seen the figures, I might include a picture of them, but they're kind of like pharaoh vibes, like ancient Egypt. But these were my thoughts as I was reading it. The doctrinal submind is demure and mindful. It is an incredible description of the Flayer virus and how it affects the Necron army. It's also a stunning depiction of the crusade of the Empire of Mankind from someone else's perspective, because I feel like most of the time when you're hearing about the Empire of Mankind, you're seeing it from the Empire's perspective, but this is very much how other races would have viewed the empire of mankind coming for them, and it's just absolutely staggering. It's also an exploration of the horror of necron existence. I really, obviously, like, my boyfriend plays necrons and I've been interested in necrons, but to see more of who they are from inside their mind as opposed to other people's, like Kafai's Kane, like his perception of what a necron is, and even talking to a necron, this is a very nice kind of companion exploration of who the necrons are, and also like their failures and successes from their perspective. So I thought it was a very worthwhile read and another piece of Warhammer lore that I felt was missing from my own understanding of who the necrons are.